Hi, this is Karthik and welcome to another Varsity video. In this video, we'll talk about the total expense ratio of a mutual fund. Think about services like Tata Sky, Netflix, Swiggy, Dunzo, Zomato, etc. I assume you consume all these services fairly regularly and therefore also pay for these services. Why would you want to pay for these services? Well, you understand that there is a real cost involved. For example, if a delivery executive has to go to a shop, fetch an item for you, then there is an expense involved in riding his bike. There is a tech expense, there is also labor involved. Hence, we pay a fee to cover all these expenses plus a little more for companies' profits. Likewise, managing your investments in a mutual fund is also a service and there are expenses involved in doing that. And needless to say, you have to pay for it. The fee that the mutual fund charges to manage your investments is called the total expense ratio or simply the expense ratio. Now, why would an AMC charge a fee? Well, there are real expenses in managing a fund. It could be the fee paid to the custodian or the RTA. It could be the brokerage paid to a broker. It could be employee expenses like the salary paid to the fund manager and the analyst and the admin staff. And of course, various marketing and sales charges involved in running an asset management company. However, most newbie mutual fund investors believe their investments is free because they never explicitly make a payment to an asset management company. The service fee, that is the total expense ratio, is charged in a very convenient and hassle-free manner, so much so that you wouldn't even know that you're actually paying for it. As a mutual fund investor, you need to know a few things. How much is the fee? How do the mutual fund companies collect this fee? And what are the techniques using which you can save on the fee that you pay? And we will discuss all these things in this video. I'll give you a simplified example to address all the questions that we just posted. The idea is to give you a working knowledge of what TER is and not really dig deep into the TER math that's involved. Let's assume that an AMC charges an expense ratio of 1%. This means for every 1 lakh that you invest, rupees 1000 is charged as fee. Now this fee is not paid on a yearly, monthly or quarterly basis. This fee is collected from you on a daily basis without even you knowing about it. Let me explain. 1000 is the total fee. If you divide 1000 by 365, which is basically the number of days in a year, you get 2.73. So as long as you're invested in this fund, rupees 2.73 is collected from you on a daily basis. So the question is, how do AMCs collect this fee from you? Assume the starting NAV of a fund is rupees 10. Since you've invested rupees 1 lakh, you're entitled to receive 10,000 units, basically rupees 1 lakh divided by 10. After you invest, assume the very next day the fund gains 1% in value. That means to say the new NAV is 10.1 and therefore the new value of your investment is rupees 1 lakh 1000. Now the AMC needs to collect rupees 2.73 from you as expense ratio. Hence, they will deduct this money from the value of your investment. So rupees 1 lakh 1000 minus rupees 2.73, resulting in a value of 1 lakh 997.3. So the actual NAV that will be declared is rupees 1 lakh 997.3 divided by 10,000, which is equal to 10.09973. So note that the NAV that will be declared will not be 10.1 but rather 10.09973 after deducting the expense ratio. So there are 3 things that you need to understand. The NAV that you see is after deducting the expense ratio. The fee is collected from you from your investments and the fee is collected on a daily basis. Now in the example that we just looked, we assume that the value of your investment increases by 1%. Now even if it had decreased, the expense ratio would still have been charged. Now I understand that I've used a super simplified example to convey the concept of TER. The actual calculation of TER has several nuances. But you need not have to know the math as long as you know how TER is charged and how you pay the fee to the AMC. Take a look at this snapshot. This is UTI's Core Equity Fund. Now if you're wondering what core equity means, all you need to do is read the fact sheet to understand that this is a large and mid-cap fund. Do remember, we've discussed this in earlier videos. Now, if you pay attention to the total expense ratio, you'll realize that the TER for direct fund is 1.68% and for a regular fund, it's 2.51%. So while the total expense ratio part is clear, we now have to deal with two new terms, direct and regular. And for this, I would like to tell you a childhood story of mine. If you were a 90s kid growing up in Bangalore, then you would be familiar with few ice cream brands. Vadilal, Dollops, Quality and Joy. My personal favorite was Joy ice cream, not because it was any better than other brands, but because their factory was literally 500 meters away from my house. There was a small retail outlet right at the entrance of the factory. At the factory-owned retail outlet, they would sell a stick of Chocobar for 14 rupees. But there was another store called Anu Stores, few hundred meters away, where the same ice cream was available at 18 rupees. Whenever my parents felt generous, they would give me some money and I would run to the factory to pick up some ice creams for the family. While the kids enjoyed the ice creams, my parents enjoyed the savings. Now you may wonder, why would the factory sell the ice cream at 14 rupees while the same thing was being sold at 18 rupees at Anu Stores? Well, this is because the owner of Anu Store wanted an incentive to sell Joy Ice Cream's ice cream. Without the incentive, there would be no motivation for the owner to sell these ice creams. And therefore, the company would mark up the price of an ice cream, add the owner's incentive, and then retail the ice cream. This is a fairly simple business model to understand. And the same goes with mutual funds as well. You can choose to invest in mutual funds in two different ways. By purchasing the units directly from the AMC, or you can purchase the units from a mutual fund distributor. When you purchase mutual fund units directly from the AMC, it's called a direct transaction or buying a direct fund. This is comparable to me running to the factory outlet to buy the ice cream. But if you choose to buy a mutual fund via a mutual fund distributor, then it's called a regular fund. This is comparable to people buying the ice cream at Anu Stores. And that leads me to a very important point. Every mutual fund is available to you in two different avatars, the direct plan and the regular plan. While everything about the mutual fund remains the same, it's the same fund manager, it's the same portfolio. The only thing that changes is the total expense ratio, like in the case of UTI Core Equity Fund that we just saw. Most of the mutual fund agents that you would meet will sell you regular plans, and those regular plans will fetch them commissions. Remember, these commissions are paid out of your pocket. But that does not mean buying a regular fund via a mutual fund agent is bad for you. If you know nothing about mutual funds and you need help picking the right funds to meet your financial goals, then maybe you're better off interacting with a mutual fund agent who will not only help you pick the right fund, but also help keep track of your investments, keep track of the markets, and talk to you when markets are not doing well to encourage you to continue your investments. Under such a circumstance, it makes sense to opt for a regular fund and have a mutual fund agent. But if you're watching these videos with an intention of learning more, then regular mutual fund is not for you. You're far better off dealing with a direct fund. One last thing before we wrap up this discussion. I want you to take a look at the NAV of HDFC's top 100 funds, the NAVs of both regular and direct plan. So the difference between the two NAVs is almost 22 rupees. It's only natural for you to think that the regular fund is cheaper and therefore you would want to buy the regular fund. Well, the problem is in the way we perceive NAV. If you consider NAV as a price you pay to acquire a mutual fund, then yes, a regular fund is cheaper and you would want to buy that. However, if you look at the NAV not as an asset price, but the value of the asset, then you will soon realize that the regular fund is far less valuable than a direct fund. After all, NAV stands for net asset value and not net asset price. Think of the NAV as the latest value of the asset that you've just acquired. And I hope you get the subtle difference. One last thing before I really end this video. There are plenty of mutual fund calculators out there. Pick a mutual fund of your choice, pick an arbitrary start and end date, pick a SIP amount, pick a frequency, and pick all the other data that's required and see how much you would have saved in a regular fund. Now repeat the same exercise for a direct fund and compare the difference. Your growth rate and savings amount is always higher in a direct fund. Do comment and let me know if you have any queries, and I'll see you guys in the next video.